Hello everyone and welcome back to the Hat-Trick Lounge. Yes, we're finally back after a long hiatus and we're back with a bang. Today I'm going to be talking and walking you guys through our Premier League predictions. So the way this works is I've asked Dev, Karan, Thomas, Neil and Nikhil, as well as myself. We've made our first 20th predictions, as well as providing our player of the season and young player of the season. And I awarded 1 point for first place, 2 for second, third, and so forth. What this does is the team with the least amount of points at the end will be first in our rankings, and the team with the most is 20th. And we'll fill in the bits who's right. So, without further ado, let's get started. Welcome back to the Hat-Trick Lounge. So, you guys are wondering what team's going to finish last, be relegated, and I don't think anyone will be surprised, it's Fulham. So, Fulham obviously have experience in the Premier League, like flip-flopping. They also have experience in the Championship, they obviously won it. Now, you obviously would think, like your natural instinct, oh, the Championship winners are the best members, or the best promoted team, but that's not always it. Fulham have a history of underperforming in the Premier League, and that, provided with Marco Silva's track record, isn't the best. Marco Silva definitely is one of the managers who's in the lead for the sack race, and I think them losing people like Fabio Carvalho, which as you can see on your screen right now, all the transfers are mentioned, may be huge. As you can see in the predicted starting lineup that is shown, Mitrovic is their striker. Now, Mitrovic has a very iffy record in the Premier League, right? He has about, I think he scored 10 goals or 11 goals in his last Premier League season in 38 games. Now, if he does that again, Fulham are not going to survive. He needs to recreate the semblance of his form from last season, where he, I think, broke the Championship scoring record, if I'm not mistaken. And if he does that, Fulham have a great chance of surviving. But a lot of us do not see that. We clearly don't see him being able to recreate his form, and hence we have put him in at 20th. Now, if you guys want our specific predictions, Nikhil had him in at 20th. Thomas had them in at 19th. Karan had them in at 20th. Dev had them in at 20th. I had them in at 19th. And Fulham had them in at... okay, sorry, my mic was bugging out there. But Neil had them in at 20th. Now, if we move on to 19th. So, who do we have in 19th? 19th is the arch nemesis of Liverpool. It's Everton. Now, Everton, obviously, as a team, they are somewhat disappointing, you must say, right? A few seasons ago, they were flying high with Carlo Ancelotti, and if you remember that first half of the season where people predicted them to finish in the Champions League spots because they were doing so well, that's when Liverpool were, not the best. That season, at least, because Van Dijk got injured. But let's look at their transfers in, right? They've got James Tarkowski in, which is quite good, I would say. A good, underrated pickup. Although I don't know if he'll be able to... that Burnley system is quite defensive-minded, and I don't know if Frank Lampard is going to go to that defensive football again, because last season he said he did it only because they needed to survive, and he's normally a free-flowing attacking style coach, right? And in terms of the going outs is where it's worrying me, like having Richarlison. Losing Richarlison is a massive deal for them, because he was the best attacking output, in their team, and that is quite a big loss, right? So they're going to need someone like Dele Alli to step up if they're going to make some significant strides. Or Gordon, he needs to start chipping in some of those goals and assists, because he's quite a good player, but he's certainly lacking that final end product at the moment. And if he can start delivering that final end product, I can see them being absolutely golden for the future and being able to survive. So if you look at their specific predictions, right, Nikhil's put Everton at 18th, Thomas has put Everton at 18th, Karan's put them at 16th, Dev has put them at 18th, I've put them at 18th, and Neil the engineer has put them at 19th, right? So that is where we see Everton finishing. Now, let's move on to 18th. So 18th, we have Leeds United. Yes, obviously they were struggling last season. Some people said second season syndrome. I think it's less of like that curse, but more of Marcelo Bielsa burnout, right? Because the team, it's quite intense what he asks his teams to do, pressing all the time. So that was honestly expected to a certain degree, but which we didn't factor into the preseason, right? Into account last season, sorry. So this season, if we look at their transfers in, they've got Brendan Aronson from Salzburg, £25 million, quite a big signing. Christensen from Salzburg, £10 million, big signing again. Mark Roca, which is a great signing in my opinion from Bayern Munich, £11 million. Gabi, I can't say I know too much about him from Manchester City, a good signing still. Tyler Adams from Russian Ballsport Leipzig, not Red Bull. People think it's Red Bull, it's Russian Ballsport. Quite good, honestly. He was the American. I remember using his Future Stars card on FIFA this year, and it was great. Next we have Luis Sinisterra from Feyenoord and Sonny Perkins on a free, which is a smaller transfer, right? But that's not where the area I want to address. For Leeds, the area that we really need to address is their outs. So they've had two massive losses. So Calvin Phillips and Rafinha. Now, some may say, okay, Calvin Phillips maybe is quite important, right? He lost him to a division rival. I think Rafinha is more important because now you need to find a way to replace that output that you receive from him. And it's quite difficult to find someone who's that elite when you have a tighter budget, when you can't spend the same 49 million that you got on one player because it's too risky for a small club like Leeds. So currently small, formerly massive. So you can't really spend that. Same thing applies to Calvin Phillips, right? But they did miss him for the major portions of last season, so they may be able to cope with him, but it's still a massive loss, and there's no doubt that Leeds are a better team with him in. So Jesse March is a great coach, obviously, but there's a real question if he's going to get sacked this season if he can't deliver the results for Leeds. Him, Lampard, as well as Fulham, Marco Silva, right? If they can't provide the results, they're the three most likely to get sacked, I believe, right now, and that is unfortunate reality for these teams. So if we want to go into where people predicted them, so Mikhail, he predicted Leeds at 19th. Thomas predicted Leeds at 17th. Karan predicted Leeds at 18th. Dev predicted them at 19th. I predicted them at 15th. I'm a bit higher because of their incomings like Mark Roja. Neil, the engineer, has put him at 18th. Yeah, that's where we believe Leeds are going to finish. Let's move on. Okay, so in 17th position, who do we have? We have Bournemouth. Now, Bournemouth are an interesting club, right? So obviously they're playing really well. They played nice football last season in the Championship, but it is the Championship, right? So how much can we trust them to recreate that same amount? Now, it's going to be quite difficult for them, especially with the lack of summer incomings that they made. Scott Parker really has a job on his hands, and if he still wants to stick to that really fun football, he needs to make some signings. Now, the lack of their signings creates a good squad cohesion, in my opinion, and that squad cohesion will definitely help them if they need to play defensive football to grind it out and stay in the league before they can start making bigger signings with that Premier League money. So if we look at it, Ryan Fredericks is coming, as well as Joe Rothwell, while they've lost Gary Cahill, who's been released. So obviously losing that. Gary Cahill more as a leadership presence than anything, but Ryan Fredericks could be a good signing for them as a left back. Joe Rothwell, I'm not sure where he fits into the equation, to be completely honest. In my opinion, most of their survival hinges on Dominic Solanke. So Solanke, he didn't have the best Premier League season when he was in the league, and it all hinges on him now. If he can step up and prove to be the person who he was touted to be at the beginning parts of his Liverpool career, he definitely can help Bournemouth survive, and Bournemouth definitely can if that happens. So I must say I'm really down on Bournemouth compared to every other team in the Premier League. So I'm going to just tell you our positions for each, and I'm going to tell you that I'm going to give the lowest to highest ranked. So Okay, so Thomas and I had Bournemouth in 20th place. Then we had Karan, who had him in 19th. Then we get Neil and Nikhil. Yeah. Okay, putting Bournemouth in 12th. Yeah. Okay. And then Dev put him at 11th. I have to say, it seems really, really high for a team like Bournemouth, who've made very few summer incomings. Like, it's really weird. Maybe they're just used to seeing Bournemouth, like, with Eddie Howe, and it's no longer there. We'll see why. I think Nikhil was born in Bournemouth, so maybe that plays into it. Okay. So, let's move on to team number 16, sorry. I'm tired if you can't tell. Team number 16, is Southampton. Yeah, so Southampton, obviously they have changed up their transfer strategy. So earlier on, they used to develop people through their youth academy and sign young players. They still sign young players, but this time from other Premier League clubs in their academies, and then add buyback clauses in it so that they have a realistic chance of signing them. So if they ever turn out well, they can snap them up. Now, this is quite an interesting transfer strategy to be honest, but what really concerns me is that when these kinds of transfer strategies are employed, you don't necessarily get a current product who can help you. Now, if I look at their current team right now, we have Perraud, Salisu, Bella, and I'm trying to think of how many of their signings are there. Bella Kotchap's obviously there, Aribo's there maybe. Do we see Gavin Bazuna starting immediately? Yes, I see Gavin Bazuna starting immediately. Do you know who Mateus Liss is? Do we see Labia starting immediately? Right. That squad was quite weak last year. It definitely has its patchiness at times. So they definitely need to strengthen it more than they have already, and they needed to sign a certain higher quality player maybe. And I don't think they've done that, which is gonna really hamper their chances this year in the Premier League. So 16th to Southampton. To give our predictions, Nikhil put Southampton 16th, bang on I must say. Thomas 15th, Karan 15th, Dev 16th. I put them 14th, and Neil put them 16th. So yeah, bang on again for Neil. And with that, let's move on to team number 15. It is Brentford. Yes, the London club who everybody loves, to be honest. Yeah, everyone loves Brentford and their signings and their transfer policy. They're just a really likable club, I would say. So obviously they've got Aaron Hickey, the right back from Bologna, who is quite a good steal in my opinion. A lot of clubs in Europe were after Aaron Hickey, and the fact that they've managed to get that through the door is amazing in my opinion. They've obviously signed his name Ben Mee as a backup, right? So that's a good signing again from Burnley. I don't know if they're going to start all the time or maybe used, but still really good thing to build squad depth in a World Cup year. Yeah, that's going to be really important. And last but not least, they've also signed Strakosha and Lewis Potter. Now, I don't know if Strakosha is going to compete with Raya or start, but One Football says that Raya is going to start, as well as they say Lewis Potter is going to start on the left for them. So Brentford obviously have a good squad, but one major thing is they were looking that they were in trouble of going down until they signed Christian Eriksen. One thing that has to be said is they also switched formations at that point, so maybe it was the formation change, and if they can find someone like Lewis Potter who can maybe attempt to reproduce what Eriksen gave to them, then they have a fighting chance of surviving, and that's clearly what all of us thought, because none of us predicted them to get relegated this season despite second season syndrome potentially. Yeah, so obviously Eriksen's also going to be massive, so as long as Ivan Toney can continue and produce great moments in the Premier League, as long as he doesn't, openly voices displeasure to join teams like Liverpool and Arsenal, they should be great. Specifically, Nikhil predicted them 17th, Thomas put them 13th, then we have Karan Singh putting them at 17th, Devansh Paul put them at 17th, I put them at 17th, and Neil Engineer put them at 11th. So it was quite skewed by a few higher up positions. Maybe they could have been closer to 17th, 16th, depending on if Neil and Dev put them slightly lower. And sorry, not Dev, Neil and Thomas. But that being said, let's move on to team number 14, Aston Villa. Aston Villa, right? So this is a very interesting team in my opinion, because this is my second favorite manager in the league, Stevie G. Jurgen Klopp's probably my favorite. Stevie G would be a great player if he wants to join the Aston Villa team. I'm just kidding. But honestly, getting people like Boubacar Kamara as well as Diego Carlos and getting Coutinho in as a permanent deal is an amazing move for them. So Kamara is definitely going to provide them some versatility on that team. He can play as a center back, he can play as a defensive mid, and honestly it's going to be really fun and exciting to see how he fits into this Aston Villa side, because he provides a lot of defensive stability, as the great Thomas Devola would say, and he really will help them. So will Diego Carlos, right? Diego Carlos, Ezri Konsa is injured, as we know, and Tyrone Mings is Tyrone Mings, so you need someone else next to him. But having Diego Carlos and Tyrone Mings next to each other, that just seems like a walking red card. So what I want to say is this season really depends quite a bit, right? I think Buendia will come into his own, and it depends if Gerrard is willing to is only going to stick to his narrow formation, or willing to go wide, because I think sometimes you need to be able to diversify and be open to making changes for the better of the team. Another thing that must be mentioned is Michael Bublé, I think is the name. Is it Bublé? Beale. Sorry, Michael Beale, not Bublé. Bublé's, I think, an actor or something. So Michael Beale, he was Gerrard's right-hand man, who apparently set up a lot of the tactics for Aston Villa last season, because Gerrard's quite a hands-off manager. He has left to manage QPR now, so it's gonna be seen how much that really impacts Aston Villa this year and how far they're gonna be able to get because of that. So I was higher on higher than everyone on Aston Villa. So Nikhil predicted them 14th, Thomas predicted them 14th, Karan 13th, Dev 14th, 14th, Neil the engineer 14th, and I solid 9th. Let's hope I'm right. Yeah, okay, so let's move on to team number 13. Team number 13 is Brighton and Hove Albion. So Brighton and Hove Albion, this is quite an interesting team to analyze, because in certain ways they definitely have gotten worse. Yves Bissouma is going to be a massive loss for them, and they need to find ways to work around that and help better this team without really damaging that spine, right? I think Mwepu was maybe being groomed to be Yves Bissouma 2.0. And if he can, that's great for Brighton. But I think it really hinges on that, because if you look at their signings, they're always smart, but they're never like current signings, right? They're always looking to the future. So it depends on how this whole season goes. If Graham Potter's team again performs under XG, that's going to be tough, because they're always so good under expected goals that you never know if they can provide a surprise upset, right? But I see them being a decent team, and I was quite close to where this was. So if we look at the predictions, Nikhil's put them in 15th, and we have Thomas putting them in 9th. Quite surprising, to be honest. Karan has put Brighton in... Where has he put him? He's put him in 14th, sorry. Dev has put Brighton in 15th. Neil has put Brighton in 13th. Okay, that's good. So that's all we have to say about Brighton. I can't really say too much about them. I don't really know much about the summer signings. So let's move on to P12. P12 are the Kings of London. I'm just kidding. They have a palace though. It's Crystal Palace. So Crystal Palace, right? I think last season has really set them up for success this year. Signing Guehi, Olise, I really think that's going to be a deadly team. As well as they've lost Gallagher, but they've got Eze back, which is going to be amazing for them. I think they can hit new levels, and if at least get 12th. 12th is a minimum in my opinion, but they should be aiming, because I really rate Vieira as a manager. I think he's great. I think he's going to be kind of like Graham Potter conversation of underrated managers by the end of next season. So let's see how it plays out. In terms of Czech Doucouré is a great signing for them as a defensive midfielder, and I think they're trying to get rid of Milivojevic, who I think yeah, okay, get rid of him right now, as well as getting in people like Sam Johnston as a goalkeeper is great. Yeah, but was it the Crystal Palace keeper who had the Hitler sign? Yeah, no. Scandals. So yeah, as long as Crystal Palace maintain their course, trust in their youth, because their youth is really good, yeah, they have a really bright future. I think he's a future England centre back. I think we have other players who can absolutely perform to their best. As long as he doesn't get injured, he may make a case for young player of the season. My pick. He's none of our picks, but he still could have a case. And let me give you where people have predicted them exactly. So Mikhail predicted Palace in 13th. Okay, Thomas in 12th. That's fair. Karan in 12th. That's also fair. Dev predicted them in 13th. I predicted them in 10th. Yeah, I thought they're gonna break into the top 10. And Neil Engineer has put them in 15th. Yeah, he's quite low on powers compared to us, but we'll see how this goes. Next up, team number 14. Team number 11, not 14. My God, sorry, I'm sleepy. Team number 11, the last of the promoted teams. It is Nottingham Forest. Now, Nottingham Forest, right? They've really given me vibes of Fulham a few seasons ago. If you remember when they got promoted, they signed all these brand new players like Seri and all. But now we have them signing, I think, in my opinion, doing smarter transfers, right? Some Premier League proven talent and some top flight talent. So we have Tayo Awoniyi, who joins from Union Berlin, who he joined from Liverpool. They have Neco Williams, who's also joining from Liverpool. They've signed Musa Niakate, who in my opinion is a underrated transfer for them and who definitely can start as a centre back. They also signed Omar Richards from Bayern Munich. They have Biancome, who I can't say I really know much about. Jesse Lingard and Dean Henderson are great pickups for them, although 200k a week for Lingard is quite steep. I think they can surprise a lot of people this year. Then Wayne Hennessy, that's a decent transfer from Burnley, and then O'Brien and Toffolo from Huddersfield. It's okay. Going out, we obviously saw that we had the Jet Spence loan expired. Now his loan expiring, we couldn't do much about it. They didn't want to pay that sum, right? Because it's a championship versus the Premier League. Now, what I want to say is they've got Neco Williams to fill that position. I don't agree that he's a left back as predicted by OneFootball. He's going to probably play right back as an attacking wing back who, yeah, great, and a great FPL asset, if I must say. So what I think is Forest are really primed for a breakout season, and some of us have predicted them to be higher than others. So one of us predicted them to be 19th, and I don't know if Steve Cooper can do that many miracles. I think he can avoid the drop, despite being a promoted manager who finished 4th, I think, in the championship last season and got promoted via the playoffs. I think easily they're gonna survive. Right. So if we look at specifics, Nikel, you predicted them 9th. Thomas 16th. I have predicted them 16th. Dev has predicted Nottingham Forest to finish 12th. Karan has predicted Nottingham Forest to be 10th. Neil has predicted them to be 9th. Yeah, okay. So I'm clearly a lot more down on Forest than the others, but I think that maybe a bit too much squad turnover, and they've not kept that same. Maybe not the same spine as they had from the previous seasons, which may be an issue, right? But hey, that enough said. Let's move on to number 10. Wolverhampton Wanderers. Yes. So P10 is Wolverhampton. I'm speaking like it's F1 race. Finishing 10th is Wolverhampton Wanderers. So Nathan Collins from Burnley as a centre back is a great signing for them. Although I am worried because they're midfield, right? Ruben Neves has been linked to an exit recently, and obviously we saw at the last game of the season he was basically saying his goodbyes to the Wolves fans, and if they don't get a signing to replace him in time, they may really struggle to replace him with such little amount of the window left. They have obviously let out Fabio Silva go out on loan. Jesus Christ, that transfer was problematic. And Keanu Hoover, from former Liverpool player, has been sent out on loan to PSV in his home country of Netherlands, I believe. They've also let go of Vinagre and Saiss to Sporting and Besiktas respectively. So we put them in 10th because we really trust that they're going to be a defensively solid side. They have that defensive stability. So we have Jose Sa as in goal. We have Cody and Colin. So we can really trust Cody as a captain, and I think Wolves can stay solid in 10th place because I trust Bruno Larga, because he was really good last season, but they did tail off towards the end, and as long as they don't tail off again, I can see them finishing in 10th. So let's go specifically to where each one predicted them. So Nikhil predicted Wolverhampton Wanderers to finish 11th. Thomas predicted Wolverhampton Wanderers to finish 10th. Karan predicted Wolverhampton Wanderers to finish 11th. Devansh Paul predicted Wolverhampton Wanderers to finish 10th. I predicted Wolves to finish 11th. Neil has predicted Wolverhampton Wanderers to finish 17th. So it's quite surprising that they still managed to finish in 10th with that 17th place prediction from Neil. But hey, we move on and let's go into P9. Oh my god, I keep on saying P9. Let's move on to 12th. Leicester City. Yeah, Leicester City is a 12th place team. Now, let's talk about their summer signings, right? Okay, now let's talk about their summer outgoings. We have Eldin Jakubovic, who got released, and Vontae Daly Campbell. So seriously, no major transfer business this year. But they really need a major transfer business, especially with the amount of players who need to leave the club or are considering to leave the club. So we recently saw Fofana as the subject of a bid from Chelsea, £74 million, I believe, and he's been hinting that he wants to leave Leicester on social media. Also, we have James Maddison, who's under subject of interest by Newcastle. Now, that's going to be a great signing for Newcastle. We'll go on to that later. We also have Yuri Telemans, who's in the last year of his contract. Honestly, thought he'd be at Arsenal by now, but they really need to sell him to get some money back. Otherwise, they risk losing him on a free next summer, and that's a risk you don't want to take for a team like Leicester, right? So we think they're going to finish 9th because we still trust that they may be able to hold on to Fofana, because I don't think Chelsea are going to be able to buy him. Also, they will have Dan him. He is honestly the man who carried their defense. I think him, partnered with Soyuncu, may revitalize that team and really, or Evans could really revitalize the team and make them solid team defensively again. But I still think that since they've not improved in terms of personnel and in terms of signings, they'll actually drop down from their place last season. And so to see how as they drop off, they finished 9th as our overall. But let's look at where each of us predicted them. So Nikhil predicted Leicester to finish 10th. Thomas predicted them to finish 8th. Karan 9th. Dev has put them 9th. I have put them 13th because I honestly believe that if Schmeichel, I think, is out the door now, maybe. Actually, yeah, I think he just got confirmed. That's a major issue because Ward has made like 3 senior appearances in 7 seasons for them, is I believe the stat. And then Neil has put them 10th. So they're quite lucky that they finished 9th. I think they certainly got helped by Thomas putting them as an 8th seed. I'm going to say seed just because I can. And that's basically all I have to say about Leicester City. Let's move on to Team 8. Not Team 8, Position 8. 8th place in the Premier League. Newcastle United. Yes. So Newcastle United is the team that I have predicted to finish 8th in the Premier League. Now, let's look at this team, right? They have obviously improved with Sven Botman, who's a great ball-playing centre-back. Honestly, I think he's a great signing and a great prospect for £31.9 million. Amazing. They also have got Nick Pope in. I think he's a great upgrade on Martin Dubravka. Dubravka? Yeah, that's how you say it, right? And Matt Target on a permanent deal from Aston Villa. It's also a great move for them. So if we look at their team, right, we obviously see that there are still some weak positions. Like the right wing is quite weak. Almiron, I don't trust him. Also, I think Bullock could be done with improvements, but they do have a world-class Champions League level talent in Bruno Guimaraes in their midfield, and that can help them carry them to places, right? I believe they were the third best team over the second half of last season, third or fourth. I can't remember if Spurs overtook them. Then we have a great signing, Nick Pope, will provide a really good shot-stopping ability. Maybe not the best distribution, but hey, beggars can't be choosers at this point. We obviously haven't seen as much spending as we really expected from a team like Newcastle with a major takeover. But as I'm going to say, as the great James Alcott said, you better to go slow and actually finish the race than go fast and crash out midway. Yeah. Okay. So what's going to happen is we look at P7. Okay. Before we look at P7, let's look at where Newcastle have finished in our predictions. Mikhail has put them 8th. Thomas has put them 11th. Karan put them 8th. Dev has put them 8th. I have put them 7th. And Neil has put them 8th. Yeah. So obviously they're competing with West Ham in this area. But according to Thomas, they're competing with Palace and Wolves and Brighton and that sort of lot. But let's move on, right? Let's move on to P7. 7th place, West Ham United. Yeah, quite a lot of United teams in the Premier League. So we look at their summer signings, right? Gianluca Scamacca, Aguerd. They've got Downs from Swansea and got Alfonso Areola on a permanent deal. Now this is quite a promising team. I do have some concerns though, because there's a difference between a David Moyes signing and a West Ham board signing. I think Scamacca may have been a West Ham board signing, and if so, we may not see him play because David Moyes is quite rigid in his terms and he's willing to let big signings not play. I think he Vlasic, who signed for 30 million, played like 3 games last year. But they have improved. They've got Aguerd to partner Kurt Zouma on the back, the cat kicker, as they've got Scamacca, who, as I mentioned, who, if they're willing, could partner Antonio up top and form a deadly duo. I don't rate Antonio, but still would be deadly. Yeah, so honestly, this is going to be a really great team partner, which is like the engine, whose engine is Declan Rice. So Declan Rice and Thomas Tuchel have formed a great partnership in the midfield, and when you have Jared Bowen and Pablo Fornals, you're always going to be a threat. Jared Bowen is so good and a future and a great potential England international for the World Cup. Decent FPL asset as well. So we got Aaron Cresswell and Kufal as well as their wing backs. That's great again. They've got a real strength and depth, I would say. And even in keeper, right? Because they have Fabianski, I believe, and they also have Areola. Yeah. So one issue I will see is Mark Noble has left the club. Now he's not necessarily going to play for them week in week out, but him leaving can have a certain impact on like their leadership and their cohesiveness, because you need more leadership than just Declan Rice. You need to have multiple leaders. That's what makes a team an elite team. Like if you look at Liverpool. So let's look at where each of us predicted them, right? So Nikhil has put West Ham United at 7th. Thomas has put West Ham United at 7th. Karan has put West Ham United at 7th. Dev has put West Ham United at 7th. Neil Engineer has put West Ham United at 7th. I put them 8th. Because, what can I do, man? I personally think Newcastle are going to finish 7th. So, I thought, put them above. So, moving on from the David Moyes side, let's move on to P6. P6 is the one and only Manchester United. So they're obviously a commercial cash cow, but are they that competitive football giant that they used to be once? They're obviously one of the biggest clubs in the Prem, some may say the biggest, but have they improved enough? That's my bigger question, because we've got people like Malacia, a left back who they've signed, but I think Luke Shaw could still be starting. They've also signed Martinez, who, jokes about his height aside, is still a really good center back, quite aggressive for the Premier League, which is going to be really, really good and helpful. Someone who knows Ten Hag's style of play. Christian Eriksen, he came up through that Ajax system. He knows the type of football play. He didn't play under Ten Hag, but he knows the type of football that is inbred into Ajax's Ajax's players, right? So it really depends if they can get Frankie de Jong over the line. They do need a more defensive midfielder, in my opinion, as well. I honestly thought Kamara would have been a great option for them before he went to Aston Villa. Also think that if they want, they can try and take a punt on Wilfred Ndidi from Leicester. He can provide some good defensive stability, as mentioned earlier, like about the good defensive stability that any defensive mid can offer a team. Except Fred is still a great player, just not, I think, suited to that defensive mid, more of a box-to-box. I think he really shined last season in that role, more than Scott McTominay. Jesus Christ, that man's horrible. Also, I really think the hype on Martial is just way too high for what it actually should be. Martial, yeah, he's got a good preseason, but preseason essentially is like practice, right? And the great Allen Iverson said, we're talking about practice, right? Yeah, so essentially preseason doesn't matter half of the time. We've seen players absolutely stink it up in preseason, do amazing. We've seen Andreas Pereira like slap it up in preseason and do absolutely garbage and nothing for Man United in the past. So it really depends on how we see this team going in their future. Next up, we have got a other team in fifth place. But before we do that, sorry, my monitor just went off. Let's look at where Man United finished. So Nikhil 5th, Thomas 6th, Karan 6th. I have put them 6th. Neil has put them 6th, and Dev is a Man United fan, so he's obviously got them winning the league. The delusional bloke. So that's where Man United have finished for us. Let's move on to team numero 5, number 5. Number 5, the Gunners. Yeah. They are really improved this year, right? So I really rate Arteta as a manager. Him and Patrick Vieira, a former Arsenal players, are making good managers now. So obviously, let's go from signing to signing first. Marquinhos, yeah, good. That boozled all Arsenal fans, yeah. Matt Turner from New England Revolution, great, a decent backup keeper. Although you have Leno, so I don't know if he's gonna really be the second choice, he may be a third choice. But Fabio Vieira, great signing in my opinion from the Portuguese league. He looks really good if you look at what he's done in the Portuguese league. Great central attacking mid or attacking center mid or winger, depends on where you want to play him. Really will help Arsenal achieve what they want, but I don't see him starting. I see Odegaard starting ahead of him, and on the wings I don't see an opportunity for him. I think Martinelli and Saka have those wings on lockdown. Yeah. Next we have Alexander Zinchenko. So Zinchenko is a really interesting signing in my opinion, one of the most interesting in the league this year. So he can obviously play left back, he can play centre mid, he can play attacking mid, he can play a bit on the wings. But I think he will end up playing in the midfield. He may replace Xhaka in my opinion. I think he'll start off the season as a left back instead of Kieran Tierney, and then slowly as the season progresses, they after a few games move Zinchenko instead of Xhaka and move Kieran Tierney back into the starting lineup as a left back, and just see how that rolls, right? Just see how it works out and just hope for the best. There are some things to be hopeful for Arsenal. Obviously, they've got William Saliba back, and he was an amazing centre back. I think is that the guy Dodd on TikTok, he calls him the Kylian Mbappe of centre backs. It's a bit of a stretch, but William Saliba is a great player. As long as he keeps cameras out of the locker room, he should be fine. So then last but not least, let's talk about the major signing for them up front. Gabriel Jesus. That man has been tearing it up in preseason. Hat-trick, right? 2 hat-tricks, I believe. So I think he's going to be really good for Arsenal this year. Really a big upgrade on Lacazette. Got great link-up play. He's also got that finishing ability. He gets a lot of chances for himself, and he will be able to finish. Right. And he will be able to score quite a few goals for Arsenal. I could see him up there in like the top 3, top 4 for the Golden Boot by the end of the season. It really depends on how the year plays out. So we have Arsenal in 5th. That's because some people were lower on them than others. So let's start with Thomas. Thomas had Arsenal in 5th. Karan had Arsenal in 4th. Dev had Arsenal in 5th. Neil had Arsenal in 5th. I had Arsenal in 4th. And Nikhil had Arsenal in 3rd. that's quite similar, obviously, because top six is really tight amongst, I would say, third, fourth, and fifth, maybe between Chelsea, right, as well, and Spurs. So let's move on to team number 4, the first of the Champions League qualifiers. Vamos. Yep. So let's move on to number 4, Chelsea. So Chelsea, what can they provide to the Premier League? They're going to provide an interesting back three style of football, which is coming into question in my opinion, because how the hell are you supposed to run a back three when you have such little center backs, right? You're gonna have to run Azpilicueta as a center back, or you're gonna need to sign more center backs. As I said earlier in the Leicester portion, that they are linked to sign Wesley Fofana, but if they don't get him in, that may be a struggle in my opinion. They may have to play 4-back, and oh god, we saw how they were playing as 4-back in preseason, and Jesus, they were horrible. But again, as I said, it's just preseason. Preseason's like practice, and we're talking about practice. So, they've also signed Raheem Sterling. Honestly, one of the most underrated signings of this summer. Raheem Sterling, a great England international, proven Premier League player, who honestly I'm surprised he wanted to leave City, because he's almost got a guaranteed league there every season, or at least every other season. And Kalidou Koulibaly, honestly, I never expected Kalidou Koulibaly to leave Napoli because of how high they valued him, but now because Napoli, I think, needed to sell him, Chelsea got him for 33.8 million. I am a bit worried that he will struggle to meet the pace that the Premier League provides, because we saw how he has some suspect performances in the Champions League against Premier League teams. And it really depends. I think he was god awful against Liverpool once when we played him in the Champions League group stage, and it really depends if he can have a great season or not and really adapt. So if they have a 4-back, I think they may struggle, but if they can't get that extra center back, I think Chelsea really have a great chance of finishing 4th, but they haven't so far, so I really personally can't say that they are in the top 4. But that being said, certain people do believe they can be in the top 4, and certain people have predicted them to win the league. That being the 2 Chelsea fans, Thomas Devola and Neil Engineer. Yeah, I can't believe it. So we've got the other people, the sane people, putting Chelsea at 6th by Nikhil. Karan put him at 5th. Devansh Paul put them at 6th, and I have put them in at 5th place. Yeah, so that's all I have to say about Chelsea. A decent team. Let's hope they can only hope Havertz improves a lot and becomes into a proper money signing. Tottenham Hotspur. I can't believe I'm putting them in the top 4. If you asked me this at the beginning of last season, I would have laughed. I would have seriously laughed. But that's just what Antonio Conte does, man. The man is built different. We don't have a predicted lineup for them. Sorry about that. On football, please. You did not have it present on your app. But so let's look at it. So they obviously have had one of the most talked about summer signings, because Conte, I think he threatened to walk. All these values are in millions of euros. I apologize for the lack of consistency. We just didn't have the value in pounds, and I was too lazy to convert it. So Richarlison, he has signed from Everton for 58 million euros. I think that's 50 million pounds, as I remember from the Everton portion. We have Yves Bissouma, coming in for 29.2. I think that's around 25 million pounds. That's Jed Spence for 14.7 million euros. Perisic and Forster on free and Langley on loan. So one of the big signings I want to talk about is Perisic, right? Perisic is a really Antonio Conte signing. That man's a real lad, a big Chad, who's going to play at the left back and really improve from Reguilon, because Jesus Christ, that man does nothing but have a really hot girlfriend. Besides that point, so it's interesting. We've got Jed Spence at right back, and they're worrying signs, because Conte said that it's a Tottenham signing, not a him signing, and I honestly really am worried for Jed Spence if that's what's said. So Doherty may be a really good option if you want to go for something in your Premier League team. Listen to that, the FPL team. Listen to that. Listen to me, okay? I'm god awful at FPL. But Yves Bissouma, an amazing signing in the midfield, and I think he can take Tottenham to new levels, because they have Harry Winks' god-awful, garbage football player that I've never thought I'd see or hear from again. But he has continued to stick around in the Premier League, and I don't know why. Yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say for Tottenham Hotspur. Son and Kane are amazing football players, and they are great. Yeah, that's all. So we can really expect the same things from them. Let's look at where they finished for everyone. So Nikhil, I think he put them fourth. Yeah, Nikhil put them fourth. Thomas put them fourth. Karan put them third. Dev put them fourth. I put them third. Neil put them fourth. So yeah, it was really close amongst everyone. Just a one position difference. That's amazing in my opinion. Yeah, it's excellent actually. But let's move on, right? P2. It can only be one of two teams. It is Liverpool, my team. Honestly disappointed. I thought they would be first, but hey, people don't believe in Nunez. Yeah, okay. So Nunez had a pretty rough start to his career in preseason, but he has started to bed in. He scored in the in the Community Shield against Manchester City, which is honestly a great time to score your first Liverpool goal in a professional match, or yeah, in a competitive setting, I would say. Also, he won the penalty for Zala from a header that was going well wide. I don't know why Diaz's hand was out. So yeah, I think Nunez may require some time to bed in, and I don't think that Liverpool fans like Paddy Murphy should be so confident as they are, but in him being top scorer this season. But I definitely can't see him being a future top Premier League striker. And for £64.3 million, I think we've got our Mane replacement in a different sort of form of sense, because Mane at the end of the year, last year was playing as a false 9. Nunez is going to be more of an out-and-out number 9 with horrible first touch with excellent finishing ability. And yeah, that's all I have to say. The man sometimes is suspect, but if he can work on that, he will be amazing. He'll be a really good signing. Really gets in really great positions. And I remember after his first match, I think Nikhil from this podcast that I believe that he's just a fitter me. Yeah, the faster and more in shape me. And then we've got Fabio Carvalho. Fabio Carvalho is honestly one of my favorite signings that we've made ever, and because honestly I just like how he plays. He's really that Harvey Elliott type of mold, like in terms of the type of signing from Fulham, young, and is gonna really, I think, break out this year, like Harvey Elliott was supposed to last year. I think Carvalho will break out and shock the world. Not the dead UK, not the dead UA. Yeah, it's not the dead UA. So let's talk about the rest of this team. Salah will obviously have the World Cup off, so he's going to be fit and firing for the whole year. AFCON is behind him. He is amazing. He's a great football player. He's going to be in shape and absolutely kill the Premier League in the second half of the season when the defenders' legs are shaking from playing so much football. And then we have the big man, Trent Alexander-Arnold. I recently saw something on Sport Bible that Barca were presenting a £67 million bid for him, and I burst out laughing, because if they think that's enough, Jesus Christ, they need to go see a psychiatrist. And we've also got Virgil van Dijk, the best centre-back in the world at the moment. Not the best of all time, despite how some Liverpool fans want to say. I can honestly have quite realistic opinions about my team, to be honest. So going out, we had Sadio Mane, Neco Williams, and Takumi Minamino. So I was quite surprised we were able to get more for Neco Williams than we were for Takumi Minamino, considering he got 10 goals in all competitions for us last year, but that's okay. We also sold Ben Davies, and the legend Divock Origi is left for AC Milan on a free. Those are quite sad. But let's focus on Mane, because honestly, a Premier League legend, one of the best African football players of all time. He is honestly one of the best Liverpool players of all time, and he's one of the best top 5 Premier League winger of all time. More than 100 Premier League goals, and honestly, this is just a Mane tribute, because that man was amazing for Liverpool. So let's move on to where we have him. So we have him in second place. Now a few of us had him in second, a few of us had third, and one of us had him higher. So let's see how that played out. So Nikhil put Liverpool at second, Thomas put Liverpool at third, Karan put Liverpool at second, Dev put Liverpool at third, Neil put them at Liverpool at second, and I have put us at first place, because I think we're going to win the league, because Salah will be fit and firing for the whole year. I think if Salah was fit and firing last season for the second half after AFCON, if it didn't happen, we would be in a really, really good position. Manchester City. Okay, so Man City are your reigning Premier League champions, and this is going to be a really fun season to see who's going to win the league, right? Because Liverpool and Man City are definitely competing against each other to win the Premier League, and they've both definitely strengthened and weakened in certain areas. So when we look at City, they signed the main area of issue for them, a striker, Erling Haaland, who has been absolutely clinical, but he does have some concerns, which I'll get to later. Calvin Phillips, improving their depth at defensive mid, which is really needed because Fernandinho has left. And yeah, the main thing that I want to say that Man City have lost is a certain element of their depth. You look, Raheem Sterling has gone out, Gabriel Jesus has gone out, Zinchenko has gone out. They've lost Fernandinho, who's also gone out. So they've lost Pedro Porro as well. So since January, they've been selling quite a bit more than they've been buying, which I could find maybe for FFP reasons, or just to like stay out of the mud. And I think they just needed to finance Haaland, and everything would be good. So the main thing I said that me being concerned about Haaland has to do with his fitness. So we've seen Haaland be quite iffy in terms of injury history. He got injured quite a lot in the Bundesliga. So if I can just imagine Harry Maguire goes up for a header, absolutely knocks into Haaland's skull, or we have just absolute dickhead go in and tackle Erling Haaland and breaks his feet, like a Roy Keane 2.0 on Alfie Haaland, but for Erling, like his legs are made of glass at this point, like a lot like Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain. So if Haaland stays fully fit for the entire season, Man City are winning the league, no doubt, easy. Like it's not a competition, but I don't think that he will. That's why I have put City in second and Liverpool in first. Now let's look at where City finished otherwise, right? So Nikhil has put City as first, Thomas put City as second, Dev has put City as second, Karan put City as first, as I said. I think Niels put City as third, and I put him in second. So yeah, that's honestly how the cookie crumbled, in my opinion. We can't really do much more about it, and yeah, that's it for our Premier League predictions. Now let's move on to our poaches and young poaches. So our player of the season, I think the majority of us had very similar answers to who's going to be our player of the season, right? So when we look at our player of the seasons, we have Son, Salah, and we also have Ronaldo from Thomas, and we have another Son as well. So currently the favorite is Heung-min Son, and I think that is a great arc and a redemption story from being excluded out of the PFA Team of the Year. It's going to be an amazing redemption arc and story, and he's going to prove the doubters wrong and win over the fans. So Son is going to be our player of the season. That's pretty self-explanatory. Young player of the season, I want to recategorize this because Haaland is eligible and he will win it, but so everyone has predicted Haaland. Yeah, everyone's predicted Haaland, and Haaland or Saka is what Nikhil said if Haaland's not eligible, so I'm going to count his as Saka. But so Haaland has one young player this season, but I do want to give a shout out to maybe Harvey Elliott. I think he's going to be a lot more important for Liverpool than people think. And I also want to give a shout out to Bukayo Saka, as Nikhil said. Bukayo Saka, in my opinion, will be the young player of the season. That's who my vote went to. That's pretty much it for that. So Son as our player of the season, Haaland as a young player of the season, with an honourable mention to Salah and Ronaldo for player of the season, and honourable mention to Saka for young player of the season. And with that, our first episode back with the Hat-Trick Lounge is over. Please subscribe and like for future content. Have a great day.